Yo, what's up, guys? What is going on? Hope everybody's doing well. PSG versus Chelsea 5-2. Those last 20 minutes of this game were an abomination. Hopefully, as a Chelsea fan, you could put that out of your head. That was such a poor performance by Chelsea. And I was okay with the 3-2. Once it was 3-2, it was like over. And I said, just, okay, we're good with that. Take it back to Stamford Bridge. Anything could happen. It's anybody's game at that point. 3-2 is fine. That's, if anything, it's the most favorable thing that you can, the most favorable outcome that you can have going to Parc des Princes. Nope, there were two more goals that were incoming, and then the substitutions that Racine. I don't know why. I question you. Why at this level of game? Look, it's fine if you're playing against Wrexham. It's fine if you're playing the FA Cup. Maybe some Premier League games because it did work out. Mostly FA Cup games. Why Garnacho? I understand Delap, mix things up. If the same thing ain't working out over and over, which was Joao Pedro, and probably needed a break, I would have just kept him at that point. Then try something different with Delap. Delap coming in was not a bad idea, even though he didn't do anything. But he made Delap look like prime, pick your favorite attacker. Drogba, Ronaldo, Cristiano, whatever. Garnacho has no place in this game. Absolutely no place. What does he have? Blistering pace? Nope. Creativity, like he's tricky, he's crafty at all. Defending, that's not in his CV. That is not in his profile. So what the hell was the point of putting Garnacho in? He did not belong in this game. Did absolutely nothing. Now I have a bone to pick, obviously, always with Garnacho, but it was clear as day that he didn't do anything. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. You could have avoided that. That 1-0 deficit was enough. Like I said, it was going to be a favorable outcome for you to take to Stamford Bridge, and it's anybody's game at that point. That first goal was brilliant. Hakimi acting as if he was Modric, coming out of just so silky smooth through the middle, picking out Dembele picking out Vitinha. I'm pretty sure that was the intended cross to Vitinha bringing it down perfectly for Barcola, and absolutely nobody marking Barcola. Barcola had too much time controlling it, I think, with his solar plex, with his stomach, and that shot, that was probably the only shot that Jurgensen didn't have any culpability in. Like, he was not guilty of anything there. I'm sure people are still going to find somehow to blame him for that. And you got the 1-0. And Chelsea actually come back. Actually, as a matter of fact, at the beginning of the game, Joao Pedro had an opportunity. And it really grinds my gears because these opportunities, the one that he had, I think it was Reece James that ends up giving him this beautiful service, and he just can't quite get to the ball. He could have gotten to the ball had he been 100% just locked in. It's like they wait till that they're like, I don't know, up to speed with the game. They're a little bit more warmed up, and it's not a big deal, knowing that those are limited chances that you're going to get, and you have to make them count. They have to go in. You could have gotten the 1-0, and maybe could have changed the structure of the whole, at least the first half, because PSG weren't their best in that first half. Vitinha wasn't absolutely who was pulling the strings in the second half, especially with that last goal. That was brilliant what he did, and then the goal that he ended up scoring, which was if I'm not mistaken, the third goal, or the third goal. Joao Pedro, you got to be locked in 100%. Then Chelsea come in for the second goal, which is the 1-1. Really good stuff for Chelsea, and that's what I mean that PSG were not marking. There were the two goals were actually errors from PSG that could have been avoided. Enzo, not just Malo Gusto, Enzo had way too much time to be able to pick out Malo Gusto. I don't know who was supposed to be marking Enzo, but there was nobody around him for 5 meters or more. Completely unmarked, picks out Malo Gusto. And I think Malo Gusto's scuffy shot, his kind of over the ball kind of shot, that it wasn't the cleanest shot, ends up helping him get the goal, because I think had he struck it the way most people would have struck it, and he had plenty of time, by the way, the goalie probably would have gotten to that, because he ended up getting a hand to that, but I think he was expecting a different kind of shot, and it ends up going through him, and you got the 1-1. And then the 2-1 was, again, that was absolutely beautiful to see. It was actually a play by Chelsea, off of a play by Chelsea, which, again, Reece James with the center, and Palmer having the games that he always has. I know he has, they claim that he has a groin injury going on. To a large extent, that's going to affect you, but you just got to do, I don't know, I got to see something better than that performance that he had. Joao Neves almost canceled him out. He wasn't completely isolated. He wasn't by himself, but there were times that when he was, it still wasn't the best of performance. I'm not going to say he had a horrible game, but yeah, he had a somewhat bad performance that he needed to come off in the end. But he gets that tap in. PSG's goalkeeper ends up blocking it. And Hakimi, at the beginning of almost every of these plays, you always see him everywhere. ends up passing it to Doué. Doué gets away from his marker really well, and ends up freeing the hound dog Ousmane Dembele, who ends up, actually, you got to give a lot of credit to Hakimi, because Hakimi ends up following and helping him out to isolate Cucurella towards the end. And Dembele gets to the end of Chelsea's box, ends up making that cut in, and then surprisingly, I thought he was going to pass it to Hakimi, but I mean, he's got the pace. He's got that pace, so why not take on Fofana? Ends up going back to his right foot, and maybe Jorgensen could have done better, just kind of stood there. I don't know if he was thinking he was gonna hit it to the first post, but you got the 2-1. Brilliant from Ousmane Dembele. They go to the half of the 2-1, and Chelsea weren't playing that bad because PSG weren't that great either. They weren't like completely dominating this game. Start of the second half, Chelsea started looking like Chelsea. And yet again, well, that was a Doué's fault, right? He was trying to be like always, that's just Doué. But sometimes you gotta just be simple and not overcomplicate things. Ends up getting the ball stolen from Neto, and Neto, you're not going to catch him. That's the kind of speed that I'm talking about that Garnacho doesn't have, which he should have. Find someone like that. Ends up taking on Marquinhos. Marquinhos can't really get to him. Ends up centering it. And you notice that, I think it was, he wasn't expecting him, but he saw him at some point. I think he could have caught up with him. Warren Zaire-Emery could have caught up to Enzo Fernandez. And Enzo's just way too isolated. Just complete by himself. I would have been surprised he didn't score that goal. And you got the 2-2. We got ourselves a game. It seems like it's going to be a pretty interesting game. And I'm thinking of the next game, of the second leg, what's going to happen. That's going to be a lot more interesting, right? Playing at Stamford Bridge. Something about that ground, that stadium, that just like, it gives you these like fiery electric nights, you know, like wanting more. They just always give you like really good games, especially for Champions League games. And nope, Jorgensen had other plans. I don't know what he was thinking, giving that ball away the way he did. Barcola ends up intercepting it, and ends up going to Kvara, and Kvara gives it to Vitinha. And luckily for Vitinha, pops up so he could lob it over Jorgensen. Otherwise, who knows? It probably would have been blocked. And the 3-2. And after that, the game was done for me. It was done. Like, the morale was on the floor. There was no way to pick this Chelsea team back up. Because who's the leader there, really? Aside from, what's his name? Reece James. Like, who else? Who else is going to, take the mantle? Palmer, he's just not that guy. He's a really talented player. And like I said, look, sometimes he was double marked, right? Sometimes he couldn't do anything. Like, anytime he was looking up, there was nobody. And everybody knows the rest. The rest is history, as they say, with Kvara that comes in. And that is the substitution right there. Absolutely incredible from Kvara with the taking it on, cutting into his right. Nobody expected that. Way too many bodies. I personally don't blame Jorgensen for that. What could he have done? That was brilliantly executed. Really, really good. And you got your 4-2. And then the last play is, to me, PSG's pretty much trademark. The way they build up from the back with, again, Hakimi starting things off to Lee Kang-in. Lee Kang-in doing this amazing move where he made the whole Chelsea side go to the left, thinking that go to the inside, to the right, thinking that he was going to go midfield, and then goes to the left. And this with his back turned, by the way. He goes back to his left, passes it to, if I'm not mistaken, Vitinha, and Vitinha with the exquisite heel flick to Hakimi, that when Hakimi's coming from the back, when he's winding up and coming from the back, nobody's catching him. Nobody's catching him. And the really smart combination, you could tell that they trained this a lot in the training grounds, and there is an understanding there. There is a mental link up with these two players. Brilliant from Kvara to stop dead in his tracks and wait for that drag back. He absolutely knew that that's what Hakimi was going to do. And brilliant for Hakimi for lifting up his head and knowing where his teammate was going to be at. And easily just taps it in, and you got the 5-2. Destroyed. End of the game. This game was hard. It was a hard watch because I kind of want to see them fight for this. You know, they definitely got the revenge over the Club World Cup final. Absolutely. With this 5-2. They made sure it was a 5-2. Right? They made absolute sure that it was going to be a 5-2. And don't even start with, if Maresca was there, he would have played differently against PSG. That was like a one-off. All right? Like, Maresca's had some really poor games against lesser teams than PSG. So Maresca was going to do anything. But definitely, Racinier with those substitutions, he failed that test. This is still a game that I don't know why in the back of my mind, I feel that perhaps something might give in. Something might change. And I feel that at times, Chelsea has that dog in them, especially at Stamford Bridge. Like I said, like some amazing things have happened on that ground. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they don't end up passing to the next stage, but actually give PSG a scare. I think they can do it. I don't know about winning it, but I think they could put on definitely a show. Again, maybe it turns out to be the same performance. PSG absolutely rattled them at Stamford Bridge. I don't know, but I am looking forward. My eye is going to be on this game for sure. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in next.